Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to AVX Live. I'm Joe Gilderson, President of Corporate Audiovisual Services. And today I'm flying solo. My co-host, Mr. Ryan Finch, he's off on a well-deserved vacation. And I hope he has a great time, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing all about the trip. Last week, we showed you the warehouse. We showed you a whole bunch of things that we do during the off season. Really, we had a little fun. Finch didn't crash into anything. That was a little disappointing. But either way, it was still very, very cool. And you guys got to see all the different things that goes into our off season as we're preparing for the fall. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about how we prepare for the fall. But before we do that, I actually have a special segment of today's show, because we have a sponsor for today's show. Our friends at Mackie have actually donated over some equipment for us to try for the show. And this is the MCaster Live, which is a little mixer that I'm currently using right now. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I had a little problem with my sound system maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I switched over to using the MCaster Live, as well as a different microphone. This is a little bit bigger box, so give me a second. Which is another Mackie product, the EM99B. And this is actually a broadcast microphone, so I'm actually using XLR. And it's got a really cool configuration as well as to how you can set it up. I'm using a boom arm, but it also does come with its own bass. Either way, these are from my friend Jason Longobardo with Mackie. And you guys should actually check them out. Like I said, MCaster Live, Mackie, the EM99B microphone, and they've got a wide variety of product line. And, we've used Mackie for many years. Great product. Reach out to my friend Jason. I think he can help you out. But we have a different topic to get to today. Thank you to our friends at Mackie. Before we get started, let me tell you how you can find us. You can find us every Wednesday at 1 p.m., Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'd like you to be a part of the show. Drop a comment. Just go ahead, put it in that little comment box. I'll bring it up. If it's a good question, I'll try to answer it. If it's stupid, Mike Dardano, I will not answer it. But let's keep going. If you do get onto our YouTube pages, like, subscribe, LinkedIn, as well as Facebook. If you're on the YouTube channel, make sure you can check everything out for past videos. You can actually do that tour we did last week. And if you miss everything completely because Ryan's not here, check out Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. There's going to be some short video bites. Some, like Andrew, would even call them shark bites, but check them out. And that is all for the opening part of the program. So let's get to our main topic, which is going to be how to plan a recurring event from an audiovisual perspective. Right now, we're booking and planning a lot of different fall events. And in our case, we have a lot of annual and recurring events. And so one of the things we hear a lot is, we just want to do the same thing as last time. Now, last time could be last week, last month, last year. It could be, as we went through this, the past 2 years after COVID, everybody just said last year, and they meant, 2 or 3 years ago. So in this case, the question is, what exactly does that mean? Do they really want us to do the exact same thing as last time? And I don't know if that's really true. So let's add some visuals here, and let's discuss what that means when I hear that. Okay, so when I hear do the same thing as last time, I think right away, okay, it's probably the same venue. That's a safe thing, because otherwise everything's different anyways, right? I also tend to think that it's going to be the same room and the same physical setup. So if there's air walls open or closed, if there's a certain direction to the room, table configuration, all those things to me are probably going to be the same. And then I always look at the timeline. I think that how the show is going to run is probably going to be about the same. If it was a dinner, okay, their cocktail hour is probably going to go between 6 and 7 or 6:30 and 7:30. And their program's then going to run. And if it was a Tuesday or Wednesday, it's probably over by 9 or 9:30. If it's a Friday or Saturday, it's probably a little later. But that I can go off of the previous event. If it's a certain type of meeting that they're running, if it's a corporate meeting and it's a business update of some sort, I know that they like to run it at certain times, especially because they may have a West Coast office or a Chicago office or something like that. But they need to reach the people in a certain window range of time. So if they say that we're going to do the same thing as last time, I have a pretty good idea that those elements are going to be pretty close. But let me tell you what it may not mean. And that is that the program will probably not be the same. To them, it's the same, but it's probably not going to be exactly the same. So I have to figure out stage size. I have to figure out the number of presenters. Are there panels versus keynote speakers? Those are things that may not occur to them in that exact second that they tell you, we're doing the same thing. You're back on. Book, hold the date for me. So I'm going to think about those things because I think that program's probably not going to be exactly the same. I also tend to think that the colors and stage design will also not be the exact same, but that really does depend on the type of event. I know for a dinner, we do a lot of fundraising dinners, and I tend to think they're probably not going to want it to look exactly the same because they're going to go to those pictures, those pictures that live on the gram and on Facebook. They're going to go back and they're going to want it to look slightly different than the previous year, even if it's just color. But more than it's usually a few other things, right? Maybe the whole energy or the look and feel, or they have a different theme. Sometimes they don't tell you that right away. But I like to consider that in the back of my mind that there might be some changes to these things. So let's make sure we ask some of those questions. Now, I got a few visuals. If I'm in a corporate type of meeting, sometimes they do want it to look exactly the same. So in this particular case, it probably is really going to be the same physically, but their program's going to be very different. I also have other groups that it's a straightforward, it's very much a meeting that they like to do the same thing several times a year. And in this case, it's usually almost exactly the same. However, they may still have more or less of something. But we know when we're starting to book the event, it's going to be about this. Now, if I was to go to a dinner, this is where, like here, I'm going to show you the same event happened probably almost on the same day, a day or two later, but same weekend, certainly, of the season. And here is one venue. This happens to be Pier 60. And they said, do the same thing. And the next year, back at Pier 60, we changed how the stage looked completely because they had a different theme. And sometimes it's just that simple of changing the backdrop or the colors, right? But that's a helpful thing. So I put this example in because this is a situation where our clients will tell us it's the exact same. And this may have been the meeting that they did last time. And they broke the participants out in a couple of people in a classroom type of setting. But then we find out that this setting is actually going to be in a U shape or a hollow square, or it's going to be theater seating. So it's not exactly the same meeting. And they're telling us, well, look, just do the same exact thing as last time, but we know that it's going to be different. And so we try to ask some questions. So where do we start? Well, I think the first thing we do is we tend to check our notes from either last year or the last event, right? Because we try to keep very detailed notes. We have a whole system where we're asking our technical team and production managers to come back with notes so that we can review them. We're going to go through all the things. Maybe there was something quirky about how the venue set something up or the timeline was a little tight. We're going to know about truck delivery, staffing. Hey, this person, they had to do something special, so we have to ask them about that. There's program notes, especially on the like a dinner, like we may take notes about what things worked really well in the dinner. And we may make some notes about things that the audience didn't respond that well to. Because part of our value is we want to bring those resources and that knowledge back to our clients. So I think that becomes one of the first areas that we're going to do is we're going to check our notes. And that's without the client. We're trying to gather the information so that we can ask the right questions. But once we actually do get that discussion point with the client, we're going to look through and say, okay, why don't you tell me a little bit about this events program? Not last events, right? We already did that one. But why don't you tell me a little bit about this events program and tell me about the content? Like, because what we're trying to find out is how's that going to affect the setup? Are we going to have the right amount of equipment? Are we going to have the right equipment? Do we need to send different images to different screens this time where we didn't need to do that last time? Is there an infamous Zoom or Teams event that just might pop up that we don't know about yet? So those are things we're going to ask about. Are there panels? That sometimes gets forgotten. Oh yeah, well, we're just going to add this panel. All right, we didn't have a panel last time. So we might not have enough microphones for them. So we just need to consider the program itself and the content. And then last piece on this is it might be helpful to ask about the initiatives. If it's a meeting, what are they trying to accomplish? If it's a dinner, what are the goals of the event? The more we ask and learn that information, the more we're going to find out those little pieces of information that are going to change how we're going to approach the meeting or the dinner or the event. And so I think just asking those things is really important. There might be a new staff member that they're going to introduce that could affect things. It may be informal and now they're going to go to formal, or maybe it was formal in the past and they're going to go informal this time, because that's probably going to change how the seating is. And then our microphones may change, our speaker setup may change. There may need to be more or less, screens or monitors of some sort. Do they have if it's a fundraising event, do they have a significantly higher fundraising goal? That's a pretty big deal, because there may be other tools that then they're going to use to try to reach that goal, right? We have a fundraising meter. That may be the time that we want to introduce that to them and say, hey, have you actually taken a look at this? You could text to donate, have people on their phones, and then we would pop this up on screen. These are just ideas, but if we're not asking the questions, we're probably not going to be able to offer the right solution. And I think that's really the purpose of this discussion. All of this is key information, and it's just a matter about trying to ask things. Those are all the real cool visuals I have for today. Usually Ryan does all the visuals. I don't have that extra set of hands to do that today. However, again, we're very fortunate that we have a lot of clients that we've worked with for a long time. We have a lot of annual and recurring events. We have at least a dozen clients that we've worked with for over 20 years. So we're very fortunate in that regards, and we're very grateful to them. And part of why they keep coming back to us is because we add value. There are things that we may know that during the transition in their staff that they may not know. That happens quite a bit, where somebody says, oh, well, what did we do last time? We say, we know what you did. Here's what you did. This part worked out really well. This part you may want to adjust and change slightly. Oh, wow, that's really great information. Thank you. That's part of our value to our clients. And so that's why we do this. And this is the perfect time as we're booking our fall events to come back, go through our notes, go through the details, and then ask these questions so that everybody can have a better experience in their fall and their annual events. But listen, that's all I really have today. I showed you the new microphone. I showed you the Encaster live mixer. I even had some stunning visuals. Ryan never has those. I'm just saying. He's not here right now, so hashtag just saying. Ryan, hopefully you're enjoying your trip, but I'm going to take your part right now. So listen, everybody, next week you can check us out. We're going to have a new guest back on. Check us out at Wednesday at 1 p.m., Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. drop us a comment, be a part of the show. I didn't see any comments today, so I'm not going to hold that against you. We're trying to move quick today. Hit the like and subscribe button on all the channels. If you miss anything, just check us out on YouTube. That has all of the episodes. And of course, after the event, after this is done, check us out on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. And what can I tell you? I mean, I can do Ryan's job and my job. That's what we're doing today. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. It is time for me to go. So I bid you all a fond and fair week. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.